Welcome to our Thursday, September 18th edition of Irish Illustrated Insider Purdue Preview. I'm Tim O'Malley, rolling old school today with Pete Sampson, The Athletic, Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated. As we finished 14 minutes with Marcus Freeman, maybe get to the injury updates first. I thought the most relevant one was the one not talked about yet, perhaps. Josh Burnham went from about 20 snaps, I think, against Miami and limited in August to 3 or 4 against Texas A&M. And of course, since he's available, there'll be no official injury listed by Marcus Freeman, but it's clear that Josh Burnham is hampered, and they probably needed all hands on deck last week.
I believe I actually witnessed the injury, the original injury when it occurred early in August. It was like upper thigh, and I saw him throughout when we saw him throughout August. It was still bothering him. And what did Berardino say? He had four. He just had four snaps.
Yeah, 3 or 4 snaps.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and that's too bad because I think he's kind of a glue guy. I thought Tui Alamaka played really well last week. In spurts, it's hard to see every
Sure.
rep, but those guys I think those are glue guys. We're looking for sack guys off the edge. Neither one of those guys are necessarily that, but I think they're part of the look. Before the season's over, I think we're going to be talking positively about Notre Dame's defensive ends. I think there's a good chance of that this weekend, as a matter of fact. But yeah, I mean, Burnham's a a worker bee kind of guy for them at defensive end. And so it looks like he might be, remember how long it took for him to kind of bounce back from his early
I know.
season injury last year.
Yeah. Other thing, it didn't sound like Marcus Freeman didn't mention Noah Burnett, though he wasn't asked about him. He was asked about the kicking competition behind him, technically. Marcello Diomede and Eric Schmidt, Pete Sampson, they're good enough where they're going to keep battling through the day today. That's how good they've both been. They don't miss, and so they're going to both battle.
Yeah, that's not
I made
shouldn't
that
be
up.
an issue
I made
this
that part.
weekend. Needs to not be an issue this weekend. But on the list of pleasant surprises of the season, I would actually put Burnett on the list. Because
Get the big one.
he's
Yeah.
done his job when he's been asked to do his job. So to kind of roll out there with a freshman or a walk-on is certainly a different challenge, but if all goes according to plan or more according to plan than the last couple of weeks, then the kicking game shouldn't be a story on Saturday afternoon.
They both have big legs. I mean, I saw enough of them in preseason that Diomede was a guy that actually, like, I was a little bit surprised how big his leg is, which is why he won the kickoff job. Uh, Met Eric Schmidt's
Schmidt.
dad outside as we were picking up credentials
Oh,
from
there you
Notre
go.
Dame and Miami. Um, so yeah, I don't know. They both have big legs, but obviously more important is accuracy.
And the last bit of news, I guess, from today is I was actually surprised not that Tay Johnson would be one of the starters replacing Adon Schuler, but that it was announced already that Jalen Stroman would probably join him with Luke Schmidt in relief. I thought Stroman got benched, Pete, during that game and had to come back in because of the Schuler injury. Benched is probably too strong of a word because they rotate so much, but we stopped seeing him after I think was it both first quarter mistakes, the
Yeah.
86 yarder, and then also the deep ball to Zachary.
Yeah, I don't know if benched is too strong, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the staff was pretty disappointed in what Stroman put on tape against A&M after playing pretty well against Miami.
Yeah. He came
I
out to
think it's
talk to us.
just he is a run supporting safety, and that's a job that's important. But against A&M, that was not a job that was important, and so he looked to me like kind of a fish out of water to a certain extent. I think that you know I know people ask us about personnel changes all the time, and there's not. I just don't see a whole lot of personnel changes that make a lot of sense other than Tay Johnson and just like forcing the issue with Tay Johnson. Because I think he does have sort of the all field. He can support the run. He can play zone. He can play man. It's not, he's hardly the perfect safety, but I think that's a player that I think I would force the issue with if I was Notre Dame.
Kind of interesting that Stroman is a run supporting safety and Devontae Smith is a run supporting nickel.
I think
Uh,
they'd have gone with that run supporting nickel quite a bit during the game if he was available, though. I don't think that was going to be a Carson Hobbs 56 snap game. The way the game unfolded, even if that was the plan, you would have to relieve Carson Hobbs somewhat of his duties via Devontae Smith, don't you think, Tim? No matter what
yeah,
you're.
no, yeah, I would think
Yeah.
so. They definitely missed him in that game. Potential candidates. Why am I not seeing this? I know I wrote it down. Candidates to play some nickel. There it is. Christian Gray was actually mentioned, so that means that a freshman corner would come in, and then Dallas Golden is a possibility at nickel, and so is Ben Minnick. So
I don't think Ben Minnick's going to start at nickel, no matter what.
I don't. I
Yeah.
probably not. He certainly has the most reps there among those three guys, but. I would love to see Dallas Golden. I'd love to see what that level of athleticism looks like, but he hasn't got much run here up to this point, so they obviously feel that Zachary's a little bit ahead of him.
Peter, wanted to get your opinion kind of on Tuesday's interviews. Most we'll start with Schuler and Kingston Viliamuasa because they both admitted a lack of clarity. Kingston Viliamuasa even pulled a Tim Priester, Tim O'Malley, and Pete Sampson move of mentioning Jack Kaiser and Xavier Watts in his interview, which is
Ugh.
something we did all year. He said we can't lean on Watts and Kais. Why, Pete? We'll start with you. Why has it
Why?
been so?
Why?
Why has it been so difficult this transition? We knew there'd be a little, there's some difficulty without Watts
Uh,
and Kaiser, but it's been admitted by Freeman and players now.
Yeah, I don't. I think that I don't know if there was a presumption from the coaching staff that they could handle the volume of the defense or what. I don't. I don't know what to put it down to other than a misread of training camp by the staff about like, hey, here's what we're good at, here's what we can do, here's what we got to throw out. Because the number of times you watch games and there's DBs pointing at one another, or they have the international symbol for I don't know what's going on, where their palms are turned up.
oof.
It just doesn't look like a well-oiled machine, or oiled at all in some ways. So it
Grinding gears and
we
clunky.
can't like the fact that we're talking about Kaiser and Watts at this point is not healthy. And yet it's also I think kind of accurate. They really miss those guys.
Tim,
Tim,
as a coach of youth, palms up.
you
Not
better
good.
not see
I
that.
bet I bench kids like that.
Yeah.
I
You'd
don't
have
care
been
what
busy.
age.
You'd have been if you were the bench coach Saturday night. You'd have been busy, Tim
I
Priester.
don't care. I didn't care if they were 8 or 18. Anything in between.
Yeah.
Palms up. Go sit down. If you
Well,
don't
they
know
were
what you
19 and 23 on Saturday night, so there's plenty of that. I put a question in we're not using in segment two because Tim Priester asked this in 2014 and 15. And this is why it's still relevant from Manpig. Freeman and Golden both talked about how easy it was to install their systems because of the type of student athlete Notre Dame attracts. So what's changed that makes Ash's scheme suddenly so hard for this group to execute?
I mean, it's difficult to answer that specifically, but it doesn't take a whole lot. I mean, whether it's terminology or just, that's why we always say first time coordinators, they can be good coordinators. We knew Al Golden was a great coordinator, and there were difficulties along the way first time through. I can't answer that question specifically. I don't know if you guys can, but it doesn't take a whole lot for, the nuances of the way a coach actually instructs the
Mhm.
game, how he teaches the game, references, communication. Urban Meyer, that was one of the things that Urban Meyer said to me that Chris Ash was so good at. That you put him in front of a group of athletes in a position room or an entire defense, and he was a great communicator. But um, I can't put a specific finger on exactly what it is that's missing there, but it doesn't take much. Let's put it that way. And I think, I mean, I think you have to look back and say that Al Golden was a tremendous communicator, that he could get them to play to a level where it was, and he had a bunch of veteran players. There's no doubt about it, smart veteran players, but to get them to the point where it was like it was pretty much automatic. There wasn't a whole lot of verbal communication that was necessary. They knew what they needed to do.
Mhm.
I think that I mean the high IQ stuff is like you get lulled into a sense of like, well, everyone was like is going to be like Bertrand because the next guy was Kaiser. And like it
Oh, that's a
doesn't
good
work
point.
out that
Yeah.
way. Like eventually your luck changes. Like occasionally you hire DCs and it goes Elko, Clark Lee, Marcus Freeman, Al Golden. That doesn't mean the guy after them is going to be as good as the previous four. And I think that they're asking like Marcus Freeman, I think used the term wrinkle on Tuesday or Monday about the defense. Like this, it's not a wrinkle. I feel like it's they've switched from Spanish to French, and they're like, I kind of get it, but like I don't. And then like you're asking me to be fluent in this while guarding KC Concepcion, like it's
Yeah,
not a
that's
good situation.
yeah. Xavier Watts was. I mean, he became a safety savant when when it kicked in, when
Yeah.
he understood it. I mean, he was just, he had an absolute outstanding working knowledge of where to be, when to break, instincts. The instincts. I mean, he had to develop his instincts. He didn't make a mark right away at safety, but man, when it kicked in, when it clicked with him, he was outstanding. I've said it several times. I mean, he was a college football Hall of Fame level safety
Yeah,
for
no,
two
he was.
seasons.
His resume is College Football Hall of Fame
Yeah,
too. It
no
would be
doubt.
cemented by voters if they won against Ohio State. He would
Yeah.
literally be like locked for it. But of course, now you get to the now people won't remember you quite as easily in 10 years. But that's why you need to have a good NFL career because I am positive that helps you get elected in college.
Already having one of those too.
He is actually already
It's off
having
to a
one of
good
those too.
start.
Yes. Purdue is coming to town for the first time since 2021, and that is relevant because Notre Dame has given up 68 points in the first two games under first year coordinator Chris Ash. And in 2021, they had given up 67 points in their first two games under first year coordinator Marcus Freeman. However, they were 2-0 instead of 0-2, and people were not quite as angry. But that is the point total differential. And Toledo and Florida State are no Miami and Texas A&M, but here we are. Probably fair to say that the A&M game is the worst of the four defensively for looking at Freeman's first two games and Ash's first two games, but that won't be relevant Saturday afternoon. Tim, what is relevant is that Ryan Walters' program is no
Mm.
longer intact and Barry Odom is because Ryan Walters had a team that quit, and this team will not quit on Saturday.
I don't think they will. I mean, you want to talk about an about face. And, Barry Odom, he's got a good reputation as a guy. His teams are tough. He went to UNLV and won 19 games in 2 years. He was fired. He was off to a 5-1 start in year four at Missouri, and then they lost their last five, which that kind of
We'll
stuff
do
can
it.
happen in the SEC.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
you know,
It's not the Mountain West or the
right,
WAC.
exactly. And so he got fired. But I think I love watching opponents. I get a kick out of quality football play, regardless who it is. And I watch these three games, and especially the USC game, and it is to me, it's a pretty dramatic turnaround. We joke about Thieneman and where he was playing, but this is 11 guys playing together on defense. Love their two linebackers, both UNLV guys, so they have an advantage there. Um,
Yeah, our insider Tim mentioned, actually in this case it was Dylan Sin, but he mentioned that unlike Signetti, who could bring his entire team with him, that there weren't quite as many graduate transfers available to Odom, but what he did bring, and he dipped into the transfer portal on offense too. Like there are fixes these days if you have a plan and can bring some successful veterans
Wow.
with you.
54 transfers, including freshmen, 82 new football players. We talk about, Notre Dame has their chemistry that will help them early in the season, and it hasn't really looked like that. But he's done a really good job. I've got a ton of thoughts to share on
We'll
what I
start
think.
with quarterbacks. I mean, because that's
Okay,
that's
all right.
that's where
Well,
it
I
matters
think,
against Notre Dame right now.
yeah,
Still,
I
to this
mean,
moment, it matters that they have a quarterback.
Ryan Brown, 6'4", 210. He moves well. He's learned, read option pretty well. He seems pretty fearless throwing the football. I like him. I mean, I think he's been pretty impressive. He's got a couple speed guys in Branch and Tuggle that he's developed some chemistry with. They use their tight end, Burren, I just believe how you say his name, kind of more of an H-back than an actual attached guy. But, it comes down to this for me, and I'm cutting to the chase here. If Notre Dame doesn't win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football, then they've got some real problems because they should. They should win that battle.
Branch a holdover and Tuggle a transfer.
Georgia.
Going,
Yeah.
yeah, for Georgia. That matters. But Pete, what is it? What you said about guys getting transfers from different schools? I think last week you were listing people that are transferred from other places. We're like, wow, they have some football players on that team.
Yeah, I mean, Nitro Tuggle, which is a great name.
Oh, it's an awesome
It's
name.
actually from our area, Goshen. But yeah, and then I mean, Michael Jackson's from USC and Georgia. So I mean, they have a lot of Power Five
Mhm.
guys who just didn't hack it where they were originally. And I'm talking like, I'm not they have some Arkansas, their quarterback's North Carolina, but I mean, we start throwing in Georgia and USC, and it's like, all right. I mean, well, you have a Notre Dame as well.
There's a
Um,
Colorado. Yeah, Colorado in there.
that's
Yeah.
they have some physical ability. I don't think this is a team that should be overwhelmed. That doesn't mean they should be able to hold up over 4 quarters on the lines, but I don't think it's somebody that you come into the game and you immediately blow them off the ball.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that that will happen right away. By the way, Ryan Brown was at Purdue, went to North
Yeah.
Carolina,
Yeah.
spent the spring there, and decided to come back, and so that's worked out pretty well. I just he's looked pretty good. He's looked pretty good. He looks composed. He looks comfortable. That's a body language thing for me, and I think he's done pretty well. They hung with USC. They actually had a chance to pull within 8 if they score and get a 2-point
Yeah.
conversion
Yeah.
with 5 minutes to go. They were at the 14, and he threw an interception. But they've done some good things. They rotate a lot of defensive linemen. They got this CJ Nunnally the fourth who came from Akron, and he put up big numbers at Akron. He doesn't start. I don't know that his motor is always running as high as it should, but he's got some ability. The two inside linebackers, Correa and Powell, I like a lot. Tony Grimes, the much traveled Tony Grimes, who starred
Oh, we've
against Notre
seen Tony
Dame,
Grimes play in person before,
that's
right?
right. That's right. In the pandemic here.
That's nuts. That's true. You're right.
True freshman starting at Chapel Hill.
Well, he
Yeah,
was
it's
supposed to be a senior. He was supposed to be a senior in high school. He
Yes.
reclassified.
yeah, this is his sixth year, and I think his reputation's a little bit greater than his actual ability as a player. But he's done some good things this year. You know, they should USC whereas they didn't belong on the field with Notre Dame last year, they belonged on the field with USC last week. I don't think
Yeah.
USC ever felt like, oh, geez, we're going to get beat here. They didn't. They were up 30-10. They were up at halftime by a couple scores, but they played with them and they belonged to be on the field with USC.
Priester, you forgot to mention Storm Duck is also on Purdue too. Actually, I made that part up, but there was
He's
he's
like,
been around a while too.
he's like 28 years old playing
Yeah.
for I'm not sure who, but
For our listeners, the offensive player Pete Sampson references Joey Tonona, who came to Notre Dame in 2022, early enrollee, had a very bad car accident. He was kind of pegged as a center guard option at Notre Dame, and Tim Priester, he's starting at left tackle for Purdue, but he was a medical at Notre Dame. It was as I recall, very bad concussion, head injury, and ear issue that medicaled him here. So he would be one to watch at left now that he's starting at left tackle. But Priester, if you had to pick out one advantage for Purdue or one spot where you think this could hold up for a solid 3 quarters and make people worry a little in the fourth. So you
um,
don't have to say they're going to win, but you're saying like, why in the
yeah,
world are they within 10 with the ball? That type of
yeah. I
thing.
mean, I think we haven't even mentioned Devin Mockabee, who's their most established player.
Yeah.
He's gonna finish his college career with well over 3,000 yards rushing. I give that. I'm sure they paid the heck out of him to stay, but he could have gone a lot of places. He came into the year with 2,600 career rushing yards. He could have gone a lot of places to play, stay with Purdue. Like I said, I'm sure they paid him, but I'm sure there's somebody else who would have paid him more. So I give him a lot of credit. So he can run the ball a little bit. I don't think I think it's an average offensive line. The connection between Brown and the two speed guys. I think their defense is sound enough with those two UNLV guys in the middle at linebacker that, if Notre Dame's offensive line should win the battle. I don't see a real standout player on Purdue's defensive line, but they have some depth. They have some big dudes. They have some big bodies that they'll put out there. I don't know. I just think maybe discipline, resilience, and toughness is what their calling card is going into this game.
Mockbee actually has more missed tackles forced in his 3 games versus 2 this year than Notre Dame's running backs have in their 2 games. So he can make you miss, but pretty sure as you pointed out, the offensive line is probably the issue there. Finally, Pete Sampson, you might be agreeing with Dillinson here, but the obvious Notre Dame advantage you think that presents, well, I hope you think there's one that presents over 4 quarters in you look like you might not have one, but that's a bad sign if there's not one obvious one that can present over Purdue at some point we could find.
No, I just think like the blocking in the run game, like I would include Raridan in that. I don't know if I would include Ty Washington in it, but like I think that if you just throw out those 6 guys against Purdue's front, to me, that's got to be an advantage for Notre Dame. And I'm not saying this needs to be like Wildcat force the issue with Jeremiah Love, but um, I do think Notre Dame will be able to block it up in the run game where at the end of the night or end of the day, whenever the game ends, Love and Price both we're not talking about like, man, they just didn't get enough touches for Love and Price. Like I think
I
they'll
would
get enough
agree.
touches for
Yeah,
Love and Price on
absolutely,
Saturday.
absolutely, absolutely. And Joey Tonona is not sleeping well thinking about going against Boubacar Traore. He can't,
I
he
never would have guessed he would have transitioned to tackle when we watched him
Now,
coming into Notre Dame.
tackle's not a good fit. I think we've proven through the years that our assessment of who's a guard and who's a tackle
That
has
is
been
that is
pretty
more spot
accurate.
on than most
Yeah,
assessments I have of offensive linemen. You're
yeah,
right. That's
it's
that's
been
why.
pretty accurate. But this is in the right tackle. I mean, I think from what I saw, Tonona has played better than their right tackle. When Tonona gets beat, he has a tendency to bear hug, and like I said on our message board, since there won't be SEC officials this week, that he'll probably be able to get away with that.
Is that a bump bump moment right there?
It is.
Before we
I tried to anyway.
we'll leave you we'll leave you with that before we head to segment two, burning up the boards. This segment of Irish Illustrated Insider is brought to you by Signature Pro Apparel, launching its debut Ragib Rocket Ismail collection, an officially licensed product of the University of Notre Dame. Founded by Notre Dame football and NFL alum Lance Legree, Signature Pro connects college sports legends to modern day with timeless polos, quarter zips, and rugby shirts. The debut collection honors Rocket Ismail, featuring the 1990 Heisman runner-up signature as the main logo, so you can wear your Irish pride, past and present. Pre-orders open next week at signaturepro.com, alongside the premiere of a short film celebrating Rocket's legacy. Don't miss your chance to own a piece of Notre Dame history. Our first question in segment two delves into the world of logic. It's from Packy P. Why does it take 2 games and 2 losses to figure out that the defense needs to be tailored? What was August for?
I mean, it's a fair question.
It is a fair question.
I think that coaches sometimes have a irrational self-confidence in their ability to teach volumes of stuff, and it bites them in the butt. I think in some ways it calls into question like the structure of camp itself. Like if you're not getting an accurate read on your playbook and what your players can do and what they can't do, like that's something like, all right, next year, how did we do this? Because we didn't get the result that we needed or wanted. And like I think Marcus Freeman talked about, maybe we're asking players to do things that they're not capable of doing. Like that's that is not good because that's what practice is for. You should know what your players can and cannot do in practice. And if you're putting them in positions where you're hoping they can do something, then you're not getting what you need to get out of August.
Well, Tim, Golden, we've said many times, right? Golden admitted that he put too much in the first year.
Yep.
I think, there's a common denominator here. It's him and Ash coming from the NFL. And if I was a coach coming from the NFL, yeah, I'd think that I know more than these college coaches because there is more volume because that's the job of the NFL players is to know everything that they're doing. So, they're not going to class or like, Notre Dame players are. It's football class all day, every day. And I just think there's a natural tendency if you're an NFL guy to come in and think, man, I've got all this defense, I've got all this offense. Well, hey, decided schematic advantage. What else? What comment sums it up better than that one from a few
Well,
years
I
back?
wish if Chris Ash's first 2 games were anything like Charlie Weiss's first 2 games, we wouldn't be sitting in this situation with
Yeah.
a 0-2 podcast and fans lamenting everything, which does lead us to question two. And I'm going to go back to Pete again, Tim, because we talked about this in the elevator, Pete, on the way down to the field after the game. AC Irish, if the scores from Miami and A&M were reversed, meaning ND won 27-24 and 41-40, but nothing else changed, what would we be saying about this team? Would opinions of the captains and leadership change? Would we still have the same complaints? I.e., would people still want to fire Ash over the defensive performance?
I think the captain's leadership definitely would change, like 100% on that. That is, and like that's the royal we on this. Like we're very reductive on that kind of thing. Where like, if you win, captain's good. If you lose, captain's bad. That's a little too oversimplified. I do think the problems with the defense would be exactly the same.
Yes, that's what
Like,
you said. You said
yeah,
there this doesn't matter if they score or not. This is a problem.
no, that to me, and I think this is a new perspective on Notre Dame football that we all have now. It's like we're judging Notre Dame on like, is this good enough to go and win it? I mean, the whole thing. And the fundamental issues with the defense are it is not good enough to go and win the whole thing, whether they won 41-40 or lost 41-40. I would feel, and maybe you guys would disagree, I would feel actually better about where the program was if they had lost 21-20 to Texas A&M instead of 41-40. Because then I would think the defense was figuring some things out, and that's the most durable thing about this team moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. By the way, like your sweatshirt there, Pete.
Thank you.
Like
Warsaw.
Yeah.
yeah, every what do I say? Every 7 days there's a
Yeah.
different opinion. And I think your points about how the defense would be perceived, Pete, it would essentially be the same. But when you win, that means, hey, the leadership, they found a way to separate themselves enough to win the football game. And I think that's a pretty valid claim. I mean, that's what it's all about. And that's what, although I guess last year Notre Dame was essentially blowing everybody out en route to their end of the regular season winning streak. But that's just the nature of the game. That's the nature of the way fans judge things. I,
Well, Tim, that's why I brought up
I,
67 points allowed by Freeman in his first two games and 68
right.
allowed by
And,
Hatch. But
and
it's
well, okay,
two
well, so
wins.
what if they were 1-1?
They'd be
What would
number
that?
6, and people would love Notre Dame.
I know. That's the wild thing that they were number 8 going in last week. If they had,
They'd be number 7, whatever. Yeah, they'd be number 7.
okay, they'd be number
Yeah,
7.
it's a big
Instead they're
difference.
20.
That's a big
Then they're
difference.
20, and
Yeah.
it's really based upon one play at 4th and 11, where
Yeah.
Notre Dame's getting their defensive linemen are getting tackled, and
Or if Bowen sees it in the lights faster than the tight end sees it in the lights, and then you
yeah, I mean, he
hit the
talked
ball.
about he talked about how he played the route because he didn't want to get beat over the top, right? Because he was thinking it was a wheel route and he was going to go over the top.
Well, I think he didn't want to admit publicly that he didn't want to offer an excuse publicly. They lost the ball. The tight A&M said we both lost the ball in the lights. The tight end was joking. He goes, "I guess I found it faster."
Sure would have liked a better athlete out there covering him, though. And
Yeah,
there was a better athlete that plays linebacker that was standing on the sideline.
and I disagree
Yeah.
with the one you said. Jaden Osbury's a nickel.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
There were two.
There were two better athletes. All right, there you go. So Osbury's a
Snead,
nickel.
yeah, Snead too, but I don't think you want Snead running downfield defending a guy.
Pass rush for Snead
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
This is a double question. DFW Irish 14. Have you heard any rumblings on defensive changes for the game or remainder of the season? Do you have any additional info on how things got this bad? Let's just take the first part. Sully Patrick says, I know depth chart for Saturday won't change, but who do you see getting increased snaps on defense? And he is thinking Tay Johnson, which is a guarantee at this point.
Which was confirmed by Marcus Freeman. Definitely, he will start. And I imagine, I mean, I anticipate that based upon what we saw last week against a really good offense, that Tay Johnson will play well enough in the first half that he'll be playing a lot in the second half too with the Don Schuler. But look, you don't want to. You're playing a lot of guys. I mean, we're in an era now where you're playing so many guys defensively. Like, what kind of massive changes would you anticipate? The freshman corners are going to have to play. Especially with the uncertainty of Leonard Moore. We didn't really get into that with Freeman, did we? About Leonard Moore?
He finished the game, so it would have
Yeah,
to have been
I know,
something.
but they list him as questionable.
I know, yeah.
I
Well, if he
don't,
doesn't play, I'm going to change my score prediction a little bit because it's open season on not Leonard Moore so far this year.
yeah, but I talked about two speed receivers for Purdue. They're not. Neither one of them are Mario Craver. I'll tell
Well,
you that.
neither one of the backups are Leonard Moore right now either, and nor is the other starter.
Very true. Very true.
Pete, change anticipations.
I mean, no, I don't. I know some people have texted me stuff. They're like, "Hey, I'm hearing this, that." I'm like, "Man, I'm not. I'm not hearing that there's going to be a massive change." So we'll see. I think one of the things on Saturday that I'll be watching with my binoculars, if I'm not staring into the sun, is like, how much is Marcus Freeman talking? Does he have a call sheet in his hand or not? I
No
would
video,
just
no video, Pete, no video of
yeah,
such a thing.
I'll do a dot drawing like the old Wall Street Journal front pages. Yeah, I think that Ash will call the defense. I think the change will be Freeman went into the defensive meeting room and was like, throw this stuff out. We're just gonna do we like could they beat Purdue if they just played cover two all game?
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah.
Just do
Cover
that.
two and man. You mean, yeah, just switching
Yeah,
cover two and
just
man. Yeah.
just pick a couple things you want to do and then really use Saturday to fine tune that. So you like, what does Notre Dame's defense do well? Could
That's
you
what I
tell me one
asked.
thing?
I asked that, and it was
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
mean,
get
Marcus
one.
couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
So at the end of this game, they need to be able, like, what do we do well on defense? Let's figure, like, you need to figure that out.
I have two nitpicks, Tim, and I think I told Pete this. We were walking up the stairs. This is from a non-football coach, but I want to know why when Christian Gray goes out for a play or two against Miami and Leonard Moore goes out for a play or two against A&M, your defensive structure doesn't change to the safest possible thing where nobody gets beat for a 40-yard play or a deep. Why are you in
Yeah,
man
it's good.
when you've lost one of your best players? Just two snaps. All right, leave the flat open and make the tackle. It's
You
second and
asked
three.
Chris Ash this question,
I did, yes.
and he's like, I wouldn't put you on the field unless I believed you could play the
Yeah.
scheme. And I'm like,
Yeah, hopefully one day Mark Zachary will look back at that play and say, that's the way I played when I didn't know what the hell I
Oh, I'm
was
sure he
doing out
will.
there.
I'm sure he will, but you have to
Yeah.
protect Mark
Oh
Zachary for
no,
two
that's
plays.
no,
Yeah.
I agree with you. But the change for the sake of change, I mean that is the plea of millions of followers of Notre Dame football all the time, and that's not the way coaches look at it. Like you invest all of August and then two games in a guy that you believe is the better player, and then you just shit can him and you put somebody else in that doesn't have any playing experience. It doesn't. I'm not saying you shouldn't make changes. I'm not saying you shouldn't give guys opportunities to play, but you don't. That's not the first reaction of coaches. The first reaction of coaches is to coach up the player that we deemed the best player when the season started.
This isn't a change because he was a scratch, but Devontae Smith will play more nickel if he's healthy in this game. You didn't
Yes.
sign Devontae Smith to bring in a guy that keeps getting beaten. I like Carson Hobbs. You can't have Devontae Smith watching him keep getting beaten. Why did you bring him in?
No, and Carson Hobbs needs to make more plays. I mean,
Yes.
if you just flat out, it's a Mr. Obvious here, but I mean, if he's going to be on the field
There's
and
a
he's going to
surprise for
be,
me that he didn't make more plays. I know he's facing really good receivers, but I'm surprised he didn't get more
I agree.
himself. Yeah.
He seems to be extremely confident in his abilities, and it needs to start showing up in actual playmaking. But you guys know what I'm
Oh, yeah.
saying, that it's a natural tendency to say, scrap that and go with him. And there's a reason why guys are second and third team when the season starts. It's because you have a bunch of professional football coaches who are deciding that that guy is better than that guy.
From KJ Rice and a new contributor, Superbad Tiramisu. If that is from the movie Superbad, I have to give you props on your handle. Personnel questions. Now that ND is past its two toughest regular season opponents, do you expect to see a broader rotation at running back? Perhaps Aeneas Williams or Nolan James? And Superbad Tiramisu wants to know about Will Pauling or Jaden Greathouse. When do they join the season? And this is the best part of it, because actually Jack Sobel asked this of Freeman today. How much does it matter if neither does? Guduli's thoughts made me think that there's not enough balls to go around.
Pete, go
I
ahead.
mean, the Aeneas, Nolan James part when they're up 30 points in the fourth quarter.
Sider pretty much told us what he was going to do, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like
Snyder's not dealing McCullough.
Yeah.
If Aeneas Williams was a little healthier, then like
Yeah,
I
he
think
has
you
one
could
elbow.
push for it. But like I don't need to see Nolan James when Notre Dame's 0-2.
No, I think, don't you think, I mean, Aeneas Williams, they would have picked some spots for him
Yeah.
had he
Yeah,
been
he's got the
complete-
RoboCop elbows.
He hasn't been healthy since August 10th.
Right.
I mean, he still wears that pad or that sleeve on his elbow. But yeah, I think he will. I mean, I'm kind of excited to see Nolan James like everybody else. I think the other stuff about the receivers, it's much ado about. Like, do you expect? So if Pauling and Greathouse each catch 4 passes this week and Fields catches one, that's like, well, man, they're not getting their best, biggest, strongest wide receiver involved. They can't. Notre Dame now, if these guys were playing for Syracuse and Steve Angeli was throwing to them 50 times a game, which is what he's throwing about now, then that would be one thing. But if you're throwing 32 times and there's 20 completions, and Jeremiah Love has got to get a, a decent amount of catches in the passing game, I just think it's much ado about nothing. Greathouse had a great end of the last year, and you would like to see him pick up where he left off. But if Fields and Raritan are the front runners with their size, it's just if you're open, I'm sure the quarterback will get it to you. Otherwise, they're going to look to the bigger, stronger, faster guys that are more reliable. And right now, more reliable is the two guys that are leading the team in receptions.
I they'll get the ball to the guys that open. This is where it's important to remember Jaden Grayhouse's big play against A&M because it
Right.
looked like kind of a sight adjust where he was on the same page with Carr of like, if they play me this way, I'm going to bend this route
Yeah.
outside. Carr found him, boom, 30 plus yards. There's just a lot of traffic around Jaden Grayhouse and Will Pauling pretty much all the times. But when there's not, which is not often, but when there's not, I think they found him.
They did catch 4 passes.
And I think that CJ Carr's evolution also will start being the whole field. Like the first evolution was horizontal. The second one was one-on-one on the outside and Eli Raritan. The third one, and I should include Faison, was part of the first. The third one, or maybe it's game 3, maybe it's game 5, is, oh, now I've found a little bit here, something with Jaden Greathouse because he runs these slants really well. And my offensive lineman isn't letting the ball get tipped at the line like it was against Miami in a very important play. So I just wrote down for those of us mathematically challenged, there are 4 receivers and Eli Raritan. And if they all catch 4 passes, there's your 20 completions. So Jeremiah Love doesn't get the ball. 24 completions means Jeremiah Love gets it 4 times. It's one of those things where I kept.
But then it's not enough carries for Jadarian Price.
Exactly. I tried to not answer the August questions of like, are we going to have a 1,000-yard receiver with 80 catches? Never. Almost never. Like it's been since Claypool did it, Will Fuller did it, but like 1,000 yards and 80 catches, then no one gets the ball. Nobody else gets the ball.
Right. So that means you don't have enough good wide receivers. You're force feeding one guy.
Yeah, it's it's crazy to think that if you average 4 catches, that just doesn't seem like that many because it's
Yeah.
48 catches.
I understand the question. I think we all look, okay, well, geez, he only had one. Yeah. And Greathouse is a natural.
He's the natural guy to ask about.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I totally understand that. But I think 2 games into the season, how many passes did Carr complete in the first game? I mean, I just
He
think
was right there.
look, Raritan looks like a guy you want to throw the football to in both games.
Yes.
Yeah. Look,
You
all due
know?
respect to these receivers, they're not Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, no, that's very true. That needs to be remembered too. That Notre Dame's receiving core is improved. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But there's still some receiving cores out there that are a lot quicker and a lot more explosive than
Well, I
this.
They
think
won last week.
they had one the week
Yeah.
before, I think, too, actually.
Yeah, and all of these questions are
No, they're good questions. Yeah.
they're good questions, but Notre Dame just played the 2 best teams on their schedule. Now they're 0-2. You could live with 1-1.
Mhm.
You'd be ecstatic if it were 2-0, and that was
Pete
possible.
Sampson
Although
guaranteed you 101 for crying out loud. The
Yeah.
world would be a different place for jeez.
I didn't think they deserved to beat
I thought they'd be
Miami.
2-0 is why I put Pete on the spot there. So-
They didn't deserve to beat Miami. They should have beaten Texas A&M.
yeah, they would have stolen the Miami game if they won that game late, and they probably should have beaten Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Even though A&M had 6 plays of 200 yards. The missed opportunities when you have a chance to go up by 14 instead of 10 twice.
The end of the half pick when you watch that game back.
That's killed.
is
That was yeah.
Really,
I
really
mean,
bad.
that's
That hurts.
Okay. You want me to read a question finally?
I
Tim?
do. Here you go.
Okay,
Yes.
good. That's from Pin and Pole, correct? Isn't the Love Cat formation the perfect opportunity to use a 6 offensive lineman? I'll hang up and listen, Pin and Pole says.
It's a good opportunity not to use CJ Carr. That's how I feel about the Love Cat.
Yeah.
If you're going to take 20 seconds to call it, not 20, 10 extra seconds to snap the ball, You could take CJ Carr off, and they
Yeah,
can
just
take their
run them
time to
off the
sub.
field and yeah, be ready
They,
for it. Call it. Run them off the field.
they get their
Run
time to
somebody
sub
on.
because you take off CJ Carr. That's fine. But if you're going to wait 10 seconds anyway, then you could let them sub one guy.
Do you think that on the one that got stopped with Love that went to Carr's side and Carr was like, what am I supposed to do? That Love actually misread the play? Like that he
Yes.
should have cut up behind Lambert?
Gaduli said that was not supposed to bounce outside
Okay. All right.
without trying to rip on Love. He just
That certainly makes sense.
I
Okay.
asked him about CJ Carr blocking in the Wildcat because I wouldn't have even thought about it, but CJ Carr brought it up post game. He said, I have to make a block. It was selfish of me. Teammates block for me all the time. So I asked Gaduli, when did CJ Carr start blocking for you? Because it wasn't scout team and it wasn't in high school. So and then Gaduli mentioned we should probably take him all the way wide. So someone has
Yeah.
to go all the way wide with him. But
Yeah,
that
we
ball
need to-
wasn't supposed to go right there.
Okay.
We need
Yeah,
to
it was like
talk to
Lambert's
Dooley more.
block. I was like, he didn't just stop there for no reason.
Right.
I think if you commit to Wildcat, Tim, I don't know if 6 offensive linemen is what you want, but you want someone block Ty Washington then. So you need somebody else blocking in there.
Yeah, and it was good to see Ty Washington get some action because Notre Dame needs a second tight end. If it was a little bit more clear cut like it generally has been in past years,
That he was really good at blocking would be the
yeah, yeah. I mean, I like Ty Washington. What I saw of him at Arkansas, but I like when I first saw him on the practice field, I thought he would be a little bit more imposing, and he
yeah.
looks kind of like a big wide receiver, not a tight
Got
end.
H-back vibes to me.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe if the tight end position was a little bit more typical of Notre
Mhm.
Dame's tight end room, I don't know, but you know, CJ Carr standing out there and being a man short in a blocking scheme is just thank God for Jeremiah Love because he makes something out of nothing quite
You know,
frequently.
you know what's kind of crazy is that you want to get Jeremiah Love this ball, but Jeremiah Love's a better blocker than Jadarian Price. So
Yeah.
if you just want to send Jeremiah Love into linebackers all year long, that he might
And
not like that. It would work
right.
more though.
And
He's good at it.
Love has really learned how to like it's amazing to me when I saw his high school film and how completely committed he was to going wide now and how he is not now.
Yeah.
He's better running between the tackles than Jadarian Price. So I don't know. That was an unfortunate one, and that's a significant 3 points there, no doubt.
We got to bounce back to one skip question by ND Yinzer. How is it possible a group as
Oops.
deep and potentially talented as Traore, Burnham, Young, Botello, Sneed, Jr., and KVA have struggled so immensely to rush the passer off the edge when they had success in the past? He also wants to know where Bryce Young falls on your list of surprises to start the season.
Well,
Did they use the term surprises in the question?
No,
Tim?
but that's always been your move. When someone says, "What's a surprise?" You go, "I'd like to go with a negative surprise," and it would be the disappointment. There you go.
okay. There is a factor that's not considered with this question. They just played the two best offensive lines that
It,
they're
it
going to play. It's not an excuse,
yeah, because we
but
were supposed to beat good offensive lines in January.
I well, I understand it, so maybe you
Yeah.
build your way up to that.
Yeah.
But like just you can't completely discount who the opponent was. Those are clearly there is no other team on the schedule that is close to having those two offensive lines, other than Notre Dame, and they haven't quite played up to that.
Well, that's the thing. That's the problem, I think. Notre Dame fans will look and say, other than Notre Dame, if you were doing your first rate series, those were the three. Notre Dame didn't pass protect against Miami like Miami pass protect against Notre Dame. Notre Dame
Very
didn't pass
true.
protect against A&M the way they did that. So
Very
that is
true.
probably why people are.
Those two offensive lines clearly outplayed Notre Dame's.
I, I don't know what to say other than this has been like the biggest disappointment of the team to me.
The ends, yeah.
The
Yeah,
defensive line pass
I
rush.
am not trying to. Yeah, I'm not trying to make an
And
excuse for Notre Dame's
the one that
defensive
makes
ends
the
or their
least
offensive
sense,
line.
right? Because this isn't a zone man cover three
Right.
thing where like nobody on the defensive line is doing the palms up. Like you
Yeah,
just
they're
have to beat the guy in front of you, and like they just can't beat the guy in front of you anymore. And I don't understand this one at all. But in terms of Young and where he would fall on my list of surprises, I would say he might be number one.
We had really great feedback on Bryce Young. Like
Yeah.
when Priester, we ranked him, I think he finished 16th to 18th in our preseason countdown, and immediately got texts saying, I read your countdown. The first guy you drastically misranked is Bryce Young. and he didn't mean lower. He's
Yeah,
like,
well, that
he's way higher than 16 or 18. You guys screwed up here. And right now, he's not 16 or 18. It's the other way.
it's fair to say that, but I mean, I still think that Bryce Young is going to be a really good defensive end. I think he's going to be at Notre Dame for 4 years, and I think he's going to be a really good defensive end. And I guess I'm kind of like
Would you put him in a list of disappointments, though, wouldn't you? For two
at this
games?
point, yeah,
Yeah,
oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That's all
definitely.
we have. Two games. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not discounting that. But I try to analyze everything. Okay, so why is this happening? Is it because Bryce Young's not good? I don't believe that that's the case. I think it's Bryce Young suddenly grew into his body, added a bunch of weight. Expectations were really high. He flashed as a true freshman. Now he's getting way more snaps. They were very economical with his snaps last
He
year.
doesn't have Burnham
He
right now.
doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't have Burnham. Again, I'm not making excuses for him, but I just maybe time to develop is maybe we accelerated it a bit too quickly.
We often do that with sophomores. If you look through history of
Yeah.
Notre
Yeah.
Dame, we didn't do it with Kingston Villamawasa or Leonard Moore,
Or Leonard Moore.
or Leonard Moore. But I want to bring up the young point, Tim, because I think you make a great point. But like, it also goes to Pete's point. I think Christian Gray is the guy that's being asked to do too much, and he is bearing the brunt of Notre Dame fan criticism. I don't think Bryce Young and Traore and Botello are being asked to do too much. They're just not doing enough as we thought they would. Like, I really think Christian Gray is being asked to be Leonard Moore out there at the field.
Yeah, Pete, I said the other day on the podcast that the worst thing that ever happened to Christian Gray, as far as the perception, was that Notre Dame brought in Benjamin Morrison and Leonard Moore.
And
And
Cam
it's
Hart
another
became that.
it's
Cam
another
Hart became
example of kind of your luck runs out sometimes.
that.
You
Yeah.
know? But it's
So
like on the Bryce Young thing, he's not really playing a lot more snaps this year than last year.
really,
If you skirt A&M being game one and Navy because it's
He
Navy.
didn't play Navy. Yeah, he didn't play the Navy.
Yeah,
game.
it's like Florida State 34 snaps, USC 36,
he's playing
Georgia
with a butt.
25, Penn State 29, Louisville 39.
Okay, well that's fair.
It's just that I don't get it because I think he's a future pro.
I've seen a couple guys say he's gained too much weight and he's slow. You know, again, he was one day he was 6'2", the next day he was 6'7".
He got some late game pressure in the A&M game, to be fair, too. Like, I wrote down his, the live ones. It wasn't as much on film, but I wrote down live. Like, I saw him influencing Reed running, getting out of the way of trying to leave the pocket. And that
The
does that
second
more.
down play at the end where Tay Johnson and Carson Hobbs both
Yeah.
sort of miss a pick. Like Bryce Young doesn't get like pressure, but he's like in the
He made it
he's
happen.
beating his man and is
Yeah.
like coming towards Marcel Reed. Maybe not enough to affect the throw, but it's like even there was a 3rd and 10 that was a 12-yard Le'Veon Moss run. Like
Yeah.
Bryce Young goes inside and doesn't set the edge.
Yeah, that was a bad one. That was a critical.
yeah.
That was a critical one.
It is
I
when
did-
I think we don't value Josh Burnham enough on things like that, where
Could be.
you
Well,
say
that's where
he might not be coming off the edge, but maybe he's setting it on 3rd and 9.
I
There's nobody
agree,
getting away.
and I put Tui Alamaka in that same category. I think when those guys are on the field, and it's hard to quantify, but I think when those guys are on the field, the guys around them are better off because. I mean, we know what
I know what
Gold
you're
said
saying,
about Tui Alamaka last year. Where would we be without Tui Alamaka? It wasn't because he was making a ton of plays. It was because he knew how to play. He truly knew how to play 1/11th of a defense, and that has a trickle down positive effect on his teammates. Next question from Blue Gray October Sky. It seems like Notre Dame is mixing up zone and man, but both Miami and Texas A&M usually had man beaters called when we're playing man and zone beaters called when we're playing zone. Are we doing any disguising of coverages whatsoever? Do you guys have a feel for that happening?
I mean, just on a higher level of just like most offensive plays will have man beaters and zone beaters in them. So then the quarterback has to choose when he wants to, like, do I want to go for the pivot mesh route because it's man?
Yes.
Or do I want to throw this like crossing route for 35 yards, a guy running wide open through his own defense? So you get both. And the quarterback has done a good job of figuring out Carson Beck in particular.
That's why I included this question.
What's man, what zone? Marcel Reed was just like, there's a guy running wide open again. Like
That's
that was different.
that's one of
I
the
included this because Tim, we thought, man, Carson Beck beat Notre Dame. The guy in the pocket figured stuff out, and then it happened again with Marcel Reed. But I don't think that's the same reason, like you guys are pointing out.
that's right.
Carson
I mean,
Beck looked and he discerned things pre-snap, and he had man beaters, and
yeah.
he had things ready.
It's one of the things that was, I think, just so admirable about what Colin Klein has done with Marcel Reed, and I've used the grip it and rip it phrase last week. I mean, it's just like, from last year to the next, it's just like we're going to make you a throwing quarterback, and we don't want you to fear a damn thing. Just let it fly. And that's how he plays. That's his body language. That's how he plays. I don't, I mean, is Blue Gray October Sky a football coach that's making this evaluation? Because
I just like the Beck because for Beck it made total sense. He of course
oh,
Carson
yeah,
Beck
with him,
beat
yeah.
Notre Dame. Like he pre-snap diagnosed what he had to do. I was just surprised it continued.
Well, I think with Marcel Reed, he was back there for 5 seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
He didn't. Carson Beck, I don't know what his snap to throw, but it was
super
fast.
quick. It was super quick. Yeah, it was 2 point
Marcel
something.
Reed had all day.
Yeah.
And maybe some of that is the defensive line didn't play as well as it should have. Some of it is like maybe you're taking a guy out of coverage to spy Marcel Reed because you don't want him taken off. And then some of it was just Notre Dame didn't play very well in the secondary.
There's I think it's the 25-yard throw after
Which
the
one?
interception. After the one after the interception, we can write it down there. Bowen is clearly spying. There's a 5-man rush that doesn't get there. Bowen comes as the 6th man. Nobody gets there, and that's how long Craver had to go from right hash to left sideline.
Oh yeah, that was
And it's
that.
just
I think I was asking somebody about that play. If we're talking about the same one, I think Tay Johnson is playing safety, and he bails deep to cover nobody.
way deep to cover no one. Yeah, because there's no way Schuler and Moore were wrong with what they were doing, so it
Right.
had to be him.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah.
that's that. Like I think Tay Johnson is going to be awesome. But like that's the kind of thing where like Xavier Watts would sometimes his playmaking ability was being so good at where he was, the quarterback just throws it away, and we don't count that as a play made.
Yeah.
Notre Dame isn't as buttoned up with that kind of thing right now as they were last year.
What
Did
Pete
you
is
see-
trying to say, Tim, is if Kyle Hamilton and Xavier Watts were the safeties, they would be 2-0. So yes.
Yes,
I
I
think so.
absolutely am saying that.
Did you see the play? Tim, you admitted that you actually worked your way through my tail of the tape, the monster.
I did, yes. Yeah.
Uh,
I read
there's
it
the
backwards, so the devil was speaking to me. But
okay.
yeah, no,
Well,
there was.
there was the play, and I don't remember where it was now, but his diagnosis and his break on the football, and I said it was Kyle Hamilton like, and I even had to say,
Oh, it was the first
no,
quarter. Yeah.
I
No, it
didn't
was
say
really
that
nice
he's
play.
Kyle Hamilton. I said that particular play, his break on the football was really, you know what I'm talking
Oh,
about?
yeah, it was the
Yep.
first quarter. It was a
Yeah.
fantastic play. Yeah.
Yeah. Not saying he's Kyle Hamilton, but I mean, obviously, because he made a decision that didn't make sense,
Right.
break for football. But man, I mean, what a impactful performance Tay Johnson had last week. Tim, did you pick these questions based upon the names of the
I know. I
people
love
that
this
way?
one. Go,
They're,
well, you get to read this one. Go ahead.
they're beautiful. This is one donut, one life, which which I think is spectacular. I keep hearing about Marcus Freeman taking over defensive play calling, or Mike Mickens, or internal demotions, or similar changes after 2 games. Wouldn't that basically ruin the season dynamic in the defensive room since Ash, perceived to be the problem from the inside, he would still be in the room? This
It's a
is
great question.
this is
Really
this is
is.
the reality of
Yes.
football.
I think it's a great question. I don't know how you handle it at this situation if you're demoting someone, and they're not demoting him. But I think Pete made the best point because we were going to ask a question. What is Marcus's involvement here? We don't have an answer, but you made a great point when you're like, he went in the room and told him, stop doing the stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Let's do stuff we do well. Like that is the change you can make right now without undermining completely your defensive coordinator.
Yeah. It's the head coach and the DC need to come together and be like, all right, what are we cutting out? All right, here's what we got left. These have all got to be bangers. Like
Yeah.
this is the good stuff. Let's just do that. It's Purdue. You don't need to be terrified by the receivers. Okay, let's just go forward with let's do less.
Let's play good defense going into the Arkansas game.
Yes. Yeah, because if you don't have a handle on who you are defensively going to Arkansas, you're going to lose to Arkansas.
No, I agree with that.
And you better have a handle on USC too.
Yeah, but at least then, I thought about that today when I was walking here. Actually, at least then you're more than halfway through. You don't if you don't have it when you're halfway through your season, you're screwed.
Yeah, true.
That's
I went to the gym on Monday and there's like about six guys in there that know what I do for a living. And first one is like, they got to fire Ash. They got to do that right away. They're going to destroy the season. And I like, well, explain to me now the mechanics of running the defense and running the team if you immediately fire Chris Ash now. It's just not.
well, I think people know Marcus Freeman's the defensive mind, but it's not. He's not been coordinating. He's
I
not going to
understand, but
coordinate
he
the team.
still
He has to run the team too.
he
Yeah.
has to run the football team and
The the one thing he was not 100% forthright with Monday was when someone asked him, "Will you spend more time with the defense?" He's like, "I spend more time with everybody that needs help." We're like, that's not what we mean. I
He did
believe
say
this
maybe,
week,
right?
this week you
well,
will be spending more
maybe
time
meant
with the defense.
maybe meant I will be spending more
Yes,
time.
It was
And,
the
that's not.
most powerful utterance of the word maybe
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah,
Sometimes I need to help the scout team. Sometimes I need to help the special teams. It's
I'll
just,
wear the hat that's necessary. Like I can
I
tell you what
think
hat's
it.
necessary here, bud.
I think you guys described it that you go in, you cut things down. You don't if you want to, if Marcus Freeman wants to. I'm sure that he's given Chris Ash pretty much free reign as to what he wants to call from play to play. You're the head coach. If you want to confer with something about something that he calls, you do that. But you don't just grab the apple cart and just throw it over. You need to scale back some things, talk about some things. But firing a guy after two games after you hired him, I don't. All that does is create way more chaos than you already have.
Tim, next time you're at the gym, let your buddies know that the sixth and seventh grade boys that I talk to have the same opinion as the guys at your gym. So if that doesn't like cut them down to size, I don't know what will.
Well,
Pete, we were walking out of the press box and someone came up to Pete and I. Remember? And he
Oh,
said,
yeah.
he said he liked the podcast, but he said they got to fire the offensive coordinator. He meant the defensive coordinator,
He
didn't he?
must
Remember?
have.
I
He was
wanted to
just in a
stop and say,
rage.
like, you got to mean he was just mad, but he must have meant the
both,
defensive coordinator.
both.
But you can't fire both when it's 41-40. Somebody did their job.
Ugh.
Our final question, I'm going to drop the beginning of it because it has to do with the playoffs. So I'm just going to read the other part of it because I wrote this for Priester. I mean, I put this in for Priester.
Oh, I bet you did.
Patrick from Memorial Parkway, which is a good name too. For the good of my fan mental health, through which prism should I view the Purdue game and the rest of the season? What are reasonable expectations for this game and the rest of the season? I like for his mental health.
Yeah. And so you're going to leave the other question out about
Yeah,
playoffs.
we'll see. If
Yeah,
they make the playoffs.
I am averse to talking about playoffs when you haven't won a game yet. I
I
just
saw a great question. If they kill Purdue, do they have to kill Purdue to still be ahead of USC? I haven't even thought about that, man. There's no.
I said it Monday. I thought, yeah, or I don't know. We had so many podcasts and this analysis, and you just got to put one foot in front of the other, man. I know everybody wants to cut to the chase, and look, I understand that, and I've had that thought process myself in the past, but again, it's just this is not the way it works. You've just got to people ask, well, what is their identity? Well, they don't really have one right now, and so against Purdue, you better start developing one.
Yeah.
That's the first step. I have no idea about playoffs or what teams are going to be 10-2 or what A&M. First of all, A&M's not going to win the SEC. I
No,
think
that defense.
I think that was suggested in the other question you had here, Tim. They're not
Miami's the
going to.
hope.
Yeah,
Miami's the
well,
hope for it.
Miami
Yeah, they can.
certainly can win
Yeah.
the ACC. Yeah, no doubt. But there's just no, just try to be satisfied with a solid performance where you come out of the Purdue game and you say, well, I guess if you killed Purdue, you'd say, oh, Purdue's still Purdue. But I think Purdue's much more than that right now. Just play well on both sides of the football and start feeling good about both sides of the football again, which you didn't feel good about either side after the first game, and you really felt bad about one side after the second game.
I think I would just I would view it as like this is game one of a 5 game season for Notre Dame. It's like a little bit big picture, but not too big
Yeah,
picture.
because
But
the final five is a that's a different
After a
set
bye,
of.
yeah,
if you can't handle that, you
Yeah,
need to leave.
yeah, forget
yeah,
it. We
Yeah.
were all wrong about so many things.
Then your gym buddy's going to be right if you can't handle the
Yeah,
final
then
five.
we've entered what are we even doing here territory. But yeah, I would say that this is a 5 game sort of, I don't know, half sprint, half marathon to like figure out who you are. And it doesn't need to be perfect against Purdue, but it's got to be way better than it was the first 2 games. And then you get to do it all over again at Arkansas, and then Boise State, and then NC State, and then USC is sort of like a midterm exam that's a final exam in some ways. So I would just view these next 5 games as this is the season. You got to go 5-0. That doesn't mean you need to play A+ football against Purdue, but you got to just see some progress that the defense is moving in a good direction.
This is unfair because Purdue was better then, and Notre Dame probably wasn't seen the same way. But the get right game against Purdue, although they were 2-0 for Marcus Freeman as a defensive coordinator, it was only 27-13. That would not be a great sign. The 13 would be a pretty good sign, actually, though. You would like to see Notre Dame build on the offense, I think. Great point about the 5 game season. And Purdue is the least likely to clip Notre Dame, if only because of the situation Notre Dame's in right now with how they
yeah,
must be focusing in
yeah.
practice. I mean, you're certainly more likely to get clipped coming home 2-2 from Arkansas by one of those two teams than you are Purdue right now. If you lose to Purdue at 0-2,
Oh my goodness.
I mean that's a next
Yeah.
Thursday's the
And
next
what and
podcast, Jack. That's not happening Monday. There is no
one of the reasons I took preseason picking games, which is also nonsense.
Yeah, I hate doing
You're
that, but
picking the
they
10th, you're
demand it. They
picking the
demand it, Tim.
I
So,
understand, and
yeah.
we'll keep doing it, but you're picking the eighth game of the season
Yeah.
in August. Anyway, and I know I'm a killjoy, but Arkansas is not going to fear Notre Dame. I mean, that's what I knew
Right.
going into the season. Arkansas, Talon Green is going to rip it, is going to grip it and rip it. I think he is one of the best quarterbacks on the schedule, and they aren't going to fear Notre Dame whatsoever. So play a good game, play a solid game, protect the football. By the way, Purdue hasn't forced a turnover yet, so they
Yep,
shouldn't
there
get
you
a
go. All
turnover
right.
against you.
Spoke that into existence.
All right, I'm done. You guys pick the score.
Yes. That's right. Predictions. There we go. This is a hard one.
I I think the offense will continue to be good. Like good enough to put this game outside the margin for error early in the fourth quarter. So I'll go Notre Dame 35-13. I don't think the defense is going to do enough to be like, oh, everything's great. But I do think they'll do enough to feel like, all right, maybe they figured some things out. And that's really all that you need to get done on Saturday. It's like, let's see some consistency from the offense and let's see the defense clear the bar of figuring some things out by doing less. So I'll go Notre Dame 35, Purdue 13.
I like that one. So Notre Dame had 33 offensive points last week in a wild one. I think they can get to 40 in this game in the 40-17 range. I am going to keep the cover that I promised in the preseason of
Even with Notre Dame at 0-2, you're going to stick with that?
I think Adon Schuler's not playing in the first half. Notre Dame likes to point to each other on defense. And just being angry isn't the number one fix for this defense. They were
Yeah,
plenty
that's
angry
fair.
against Texas A&M. I agree the offense will keep rolling. So I'll go 41-17. I just want to keep I feel like on Monday I was like, oh, Notre Dame's going to cover this game easily now that they lost the throw in two. That doesn't usually, I don't know if being mad
Yeah,
as Hornets doesn't make you execute.
yeah. I think that's the solid logic. I like the over. That's the one thing that I'm sure of now. And I think the line's 25 now, Tim, the
Yeah.
last time I
Yeah.
looked. I think it's right around there. I don't think it I
Right.
don't
You're
think
sweating
it's
it. You're probably sweating it at the very
yeah,
end.
I don't
Yeah.
think it's off much either way.
That's it. And as we said, our next podcast will be Monday, assuming Notre Dame's not 0-3. If they are, you guys will be back here with Jack and
It'll be
somebody else.
hosted by Patrick from Memorial Parkway.
That's right. Who will have a new prism, and he will no longer be putting one foot in front of the other, as Tim Priester told him to do going
Oh,
forward. But
it'll be hosted by the six guys that I talk to when I go to the
yeah,
gym and
Yeah.
set fire.
Well, it
That
would
would
be
be a great
good too.
pod.
Actually, that would probably be highly rated, to be honest with you. If they're 0-3, it would be just as highly rated as if anybody else came to this. But until then, for Pete Sampson, The Athletic, Tim Priest of Irish Illustrated, I'm Tim O'Malley. Thank you for watching and listening. Irish Illustrated Insider.